All right, everybody, welcome back. Road to Retirement. Tony Marlette Jr. at Brookside Financial and Tony Shore in what I understand to be snowy Minnesota, finally living up to its nickname of Minnesota.
It is coming down hard and heavy out there. We're supposed to get about 6 inches, which isn't for us isn't crazy, but it's still a good amount. And driving in this morning to the studios was not what I would call fun, but I just listened to my audiobook and just creep along with traffic. Don't go too fast.
You mean you weren't enjoying the snow glistening and riding in a one-horse open sleigh down the road?
You know what? That wasn't happening. But let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. The weather outside is frightful.
As long as you got nowhere to go, right?
Yeah. Since we've got nowhere to go, let it snow. And I brought some corn for popping. You know the song.
I do.
And
know
what
the
a
song.
lovely singing voice. Do you think we have anybody still listening at this point?
I think you might have turned everybody off.
Yeah. It's okay.
No, that was good. That was good.
All right.
I wouldn't even attempt it. So good for you.
Yeah, your turn's next. What are you going to sing for us today, Tony?
I'm going to sing our podcast topic today of financial lessons from Christmas movies.
Sure.
And by sing, I mean speak.
Okay. But wait, before we get into the financial lessons for Christmas movies, let's quick hit on the actual financial news that broke yesterday, which was the Fed, right?
Mm-hmm.
What did they do?
So they projected 2 rate cuts for 2025. And so they are going to cut rates. They're cutting rates in December, 1/4 of a point. Is that?
Yeah, they did yesterday. Yeah. They actually did it. They cut rates by a 1/4 of a percent.
And then two projected for 2025. So the market's on this insane 10-day losing streak.
Right. They didn't react well yesterday, the markets, to the news that they only were going to lower it 2 times next year. The Fed alluded to that. Now, things change. They say things. I mean, I remember when they said they were going to lower it 6 times this year.
Oh, yeah.
They did it 3. They're only going to do it. I don't know why they come out and indicate it, that kind of thing. But I think they're trying to set expectations a little low now, so it's not a prolonged,
Well, yeah, problem. So they don't get lampooned like they did this year.
Yes, exactly.
With all the talk of rate cuts, and they didn't end up doing it until what, September? September was the first one.
Yes, so it was.
Yeah, that I think it's the first 10-day losing streak since the 70s for the market. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. What else did I hear? It's and the VIX, which is the volatility index, which when that goes up, it means the markets are doing horrible and there's a lot of volatility. The VIX hit its second highest point ever since the creation of the VIX index, the volatility index. To yesterday, it hit its highest, which is not good, right?
No, and I think we've mentioned it on here before. I mentioned it in my market updates, and I tell clients we're due for a correction at some point.
Yeah.
Election or not, earnings or not, recession or not, we're due for a 5% correction in the market. So, I mean, I thought for a while the market was on borrowed time. I still think maybe we got a little bit of ways to go down.
I think so. It's still way up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the stocks particularly are still pretty pricey. But you don't want to play this game. We don't manage money for short-term trends. Obviously, we stay ahead of it. We try to capitalize on these opportunities, but we don't get into changing strategies as a whole just based on short-term events. And these are definitely what we would call short-term events.
Oh, for sure. Like, for example, from what you've said in the past, Tony, you and Chris, about the markets, things like the market reacting to something the Fed says it might do in the future, that's more of short-term volatility compared to earnings, is what these companies that make up the stock market, it's really their earnings that really affect it. So I would be more concerned if the earnings report came out and it was way down, then that could affect the stock market. That obviously would affect the stock market negatively, but that could be a more permanent thing.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a little more rational too. So markets are not always rational, to your point.
No.
Perception is reality sometimes in the market,
Oh, sure. I mean,
unfortunately. So,
somebody sneezes in China and the market can drop
oh yeah.
20%. I mean, it can happen, right?
Oh yeah, we've seen it before where people, like one individual, will come out and say something, and that's enough to move the market. And these are your big time, your heavy hitters. I remember when Trump was running in 16, and leading up to this in 2015 in the summer, whenever he would come and talk about the dollar would strengthen. Whenever he would come and talk about the market and how I think it was overvalued at the time, the market would drop. Musk does the same thing. Warren Buffett, all these people. Bill
Chris
Gates comes out.
Anselmo.
Chris Anselmo comes
If
out.
if Chris comes out and says the market's overvalued, it might, yeah.
It might drop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. The talking heads, the important players in the financial game, and we're not going to name names, Chris Anselmo, but they're out there. Okay. So let's move on to Christmas movies. We alluded to this last week.
Yeah.
And since we're recording this the week before Christmas, about 6 days before Christmas, let's talk about, well, I can tell you my favorite holiday movies. I'm going to list them.
Go ahead.
Number one is Christmas Vacation.
We share that one.
Number 2 is probably Elf.
Okay.
Number 3 is A Christmas Story.
Okay.
Which is a great one, A Christmas Story. Number 4 might be Scrooged. And then 5 would be It's a Wonderful Life. And then somewhere in the top 10, Die Hard. I think Love Actually, isn't that a Christmas movie? I can't remember. There are quite a few of them. The Grinch with Jim Carrey, the Jim Carrey version of The Grinch is in there. How about for you? What's your favorite?
So you're going to be really happy because all 5 of yours I included in our topics today.
Nice.
I would say my 5 are Lampoon's Vacation.
Yep.
Elf, Wonderful Life. I would go with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I love that one.
Yeah, if you're including those, you got to include Rudolph. That's one of my favorite holiday shows. Yeah.
And then I would say probably The Grinch as well.
Yeah.
I like the Jim Carrey one. I like the animated one from 5 years ago or so.
Yeah, about 4 years ago.
4 years
maybe
ago.
They had an animated version that was pretty good. I mean, I love the original animated version too. I mean, they're all 3 good. Those 3 are great.
Yeah. I think It's a Wonderful Life is a very heavy movie.
Oh,
but it's one of those that I think I cannot turn it off once I turn it on.
Yep.
And it's not a
Same.
cheery Christmas movie.
Nope.
It's just so pointed and so direct, and it's very real.
Yeah.
So I am one of, you're not going to like this. I am one of the people, I do not consider Die Hard a Christmas movie. My type are.
Wait, what? But no.
Was I breaking up?
No, I thought you said, I think you misspoke there. I thought you said you don't believe Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
I mean, look, the movie came out in July. The producers didn't even think it was a Christmas movie. I think it just picked up all this momentum over the years.
No, the movie takes place over Christmas.
At Christmas, right,
Yeah.
right. But it was released in July. So how do you put out a Christmas movie in July?
Oh, they do things. Hollywood can do things. They do whatever they want. But we're not talking about Hollywood's release schedule. We're talking about the fact that Die Hard, as you watch it, you realize it's all about the Christmas spirit. I mean, sure, there's guys getting killed and people doing
Hans
cocaine and
Gruber
things
doesn't have the Christmas spirit, does he?
He does not, and that's the lesson. There's a lot of financial lessons in there too, I think.
Yeah, there are. So
Greed.
you brought up. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well, Home Alone, actually, we forgot to mention Home Alone, and you talk about some financial lessons.
Oh, I mean, there's some in there. I have. So we'll talk about Home Alone. So
Okay.
it's actually my wife's favorite Christmas movie.
Yep.
And this is a good one in that you have Harry and Marv. the bandits, right? The wet
Yeah,
bandits.
the wet bandits.
So I think there's a couple of financial lessons in here. One, it's really clutch how they leave some cash in the house for Kevin to go to the grocery store.
Yes,
So
he
you never
finds
know.
well, he steals the cash from his brother's bedroom.
Right.
His
So you
brother's
never know.
cash. Yeah.
That's right. He stole cash. He stole magazines and weapons and a tarantula. And
But he didn't steal. He borrowed from his brother. But the cash, keeping a cash reserve is smart. So his brother was smart. And as adults, we need to have that emergency fund and liquid money, right? Is that what you're saying?
yeah, absolutely. It was definitely emergency money for him. So it's obviously important to have money in the bank. It's important if you want to have some cash at home. You don't want too much because, you could misplace it or it could, burn up in a fire or whatever. But even if you keep some at home for some sort of emergency, we have plenty of people that do that too in a safe. But either way, have access to cash. I think, as we've talked about before, it is probably the very first step towards any kind of financial well-being. You want to have that cash built up so you don't have to, borrow against investments or not have money available when you need it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You want to have that cash reserve. Okay, that's a good lesson from Home Alone. The lesson I get from Home Alone is you need to be properly insured.
So that's the other one I was going to say is
Okay,
the
good.
insurance.
I stole it from you.
That's
Sorry.
all right. That's okay. This is give and take. That's all right. But yeah, you're right. Insurance would be a big thing, especially for all those people they run the water on, right? And they leave the water going in those houses. And next thing you know, you're up to your knees in water. So definitely have the proper insurance.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. Be properly insured. Okay, so that's Home Alone.
Yep.
What else do you have for us?
Let's talk about our favorite one, which is Lampoons. There's a big financial lesson in here.
Okay, what is it?
So obviously, don't spend your money before you get it. Otherwise, you get enrolled in a Jelly of the Month club.
Yeah, here we go.
What is it?
It's a 1-year membership in the Jelly of the Month club.
Oh, God.
Clark, that's the gift that keeps on giving the whole year.
That it is, Edward. That it is indeed.
He was expecting like a $10,000 bonus or $20,000, and like he gets every year. But this year, instead of a check, he got a Jelly of the Month club.
Got enrolled in the Jelly of the Month club.
But the mistake he made, you're saying, is that he put a down payment on a swimming pool and wrote a check from his checking when he wasn't sure he'd have enough in his checking account to cover it without that bonus.
Without the bonus, that's right.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Shirley was a pretty greedy guy. You can tell when, he without even really thinking about it, he gets a conscience and decides to raise the bonus, add 10% on to the previous year. So he had the means to do it, but at the same time, you can't just rely on bonus money every year.
No, you can't count on it in case the company has a down year or you have an executive like that who just decides, hey, we're going to increase the bottom line by cutting out Christmas bonuses this year.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I wish, I mean, you and I probably, I don't know about you. I don't work for a company where I get a Christmas bonus. So, I wish I got a Christmas bonus. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have. It's something too where, like in the Christmas vacation case, if they're saying, okay, we had a really bad year, a bonus should be just that. It's profits. It's icing on the cake, so to speak. And you don't want to get into a situation where you're paying people bonuses and then having to lay off staff. So in most cases, people that pay bonuses understand that.
Yeah, for sure. But a lot of people do count on it, and maybe they shouldn't. It should be what it is. What it is a bonus.
Yeah,
that's bonus. That's not money you can count on. So
exactly.
I agree with you there. But I do want to add, I'm not dissing my company. They take good care of me. So I'm not complaining. It's just some companies work it that way where, they pay out bonuses. Others give you a bigger raise during the year. So it depends on where you're working and what position you're at. But don't count your chickens before they're eggs before they're hatched, or chickens before they're hatched, whatever the phrase is.
Yeah, I remember my mom and dad saying that one to me when I was younger, and I never could repeat it. I could never get it right because I was always like the same thing. Don't count your eggs or don't count your chickens. Chickens don't hatch, eggs hatch. So I don't know.
Which came first also. Okay. So Christmas Vacation, there are probably other ones. I mean, you don't want to get stressed during Christmas either. I mean, Clark got pretty stressed.
Where do you think you're going? Nobody's leaving. Nobody's walking out on this fun old-fashioned family Christmas. No, we're all in this together. This is a full-blown 4-alarm holiday emergency here. We're going to press on, and we're going to have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny Kaye.
Yeah.
Did Danny Kaye have a middle name? Danny something is with an F.
Yeah, I that's the edited version for the
Yeah.
show. Let's not get ourselves into trouble here, but I absolutely love that movie. And there's another one.
Can I refill your eggnog for you? Get you something to eat? Drive you out to the middle of nowhere? Leave you for dead?
No, I'm doing just fine, Clark.
All right, Christmas Vacation. We had to have some fun with that one. Is there anything else from that one, or you want to move on?
Yeah, I think we can move on. I think there probably are other ones from that one.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
we talked about It's a Wonderful Life. I think this just really indicates truly the magic of Christmas in that it's not about money. It's not about what you have. It's not about what you could have done. If you look at the movie and they show how many lives George Bailey had touched over the years. And if not for him, what would have happened to the town? It would have been given to a greedy, they would have changed the name of the city to Pottersville in honor of Mr. Potter, the kind of the bully. But, he doesn't achieve his dreams. George Bailey doesn't. He wanted to go visit all these places. He ends up with a family and a couple of kids settling down in Bedford Falls is the fictional name of the town, and doesn't quite live up to his own expectations, but he doesn't realize it, but he ends up saving a lot of people and having a huge impact on a lot of people's life. It's kind of like in Swingers when they say you're so money and you don't even know it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that line. Yeah. But It's a Wonderful Life is probably the most blatant financial lessons of all the movies, because it involves a banker. It involves people's money. But the lesson, like you say, I love it because it's not about the money. It's about money, but it's not about the money. And that's the lesson. And, greed. We learn about that in a lot of these movies. So what's the overall financial take then from that movie, or your take?
Yeah, I would say, if I hate to just break it down this way, but look at the positive side of things as far as like, what are you doing? If you're not, say, you start off maybe in your 20s and 30s and you wanted to see the world. Instead of that, you met somebody, settled down, had some kids, moved to the suburbs. Look at all the lives that you're impacting, on a daily basis, even if it's, the work that you're doing, if you're doing volunteer work, helping people out. I mean, the movie itself just takes it's a dark look at it, but at the same time, they go back and look, his guardian angel comes back and shows him all the lives that he's touched in a positive way. So, it's not all about having all that money. It's all about, adapting your lifestyle and impacting those around you.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really what the season should be about. It's not necessarily the material things or the wealth that you give. It's being there for others, being there for them. I think that's huge. So there are a number of great lessons from It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, without a doubt. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. It's worth it. It's black and white. It's old, but it's not just one of the best Christmas movies. I think it's one of the best movies ever made.
It's timeless.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
You brought up before the Elf, The Grinch.
The Grinch with Jim Carrey. Love that.
Yeah. So at the very end, he, the Grinch gets a heart. His heart was 2 sizes too small.
Yeah.
And then at the end, the line that they say is, maybe Christmas he thought doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps is a little bit more. So
There
it's
you
not
go.
about, he steals the gifts and everybody knows the story of the Grinch. They end up including him anyway. He doesn't steal their Christmas spirit. They tell him it's not about presents. It's about being together. So we see that lesson in that one too.
His heart grew 3 sizes that day.
It did.
Yeah. And I think my heart grew 3 sizes the day I watched that movie, just from watching it. That's a really good one. And of course, the Jim Carrey version, he does such a great job. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
He struggled, if I remember correctly, when that came out. He struggled with staying in that suit all day long. It was so binding and so tight. I think he was getting he said he would never do it again, but he's obviously glad he did it. It was a really good movie.
Yeah. True. I guess it was hard to make, and you can tell. I mean, that suit was just insane. He really, they transformed him, and it was like integrated. It was on him. I mean, he had stuff glued to him for that.
Right.
That's pretty intense. Okay, The Grinch. That's a good one. What else do we have?
So we talked about Elf. We can talk about Buddy the Elf. Buddy the Elf is a guy, when he's up at the North Pole, he falls behind the other elves. Of course, he's not a real elf. He's a human. He thinks he's an elf. So compared to other humans, he actually has a fierce work ethic. And he is able to, make 85 snowballs in a matter of 5 seconds and start throwing them at people.
Right.
He also does, he wears the same outfit every day. I'm not advocating for that, but he's not going.
If you wash it every night, maybe.
The part James Caan's like, do you want to make me happy? And he's like, yeah, more than anything. And he's like, lose the tights as soon as possible.
As soon as possible. Lose the tights as soon as possible.
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
But Buddy the Elf partakes in a lot of free or less costly enjoyment. He runs around the store with his brother. They partake in the snowball fight. He, more than anybody, understands the magic of Christmas. It's not the presents necessarily. It's about believing, more so than seeing. So he helps Santa Claus get his sleigh off the ground. And some of the things he does throughout the movie, just, he's not going to let anybody else dampen his spirit. Even the big tough guys at Walter's office that escort him out and tell him to go to Gimbel's, which he does, and decorates their Santa Claus room with all the paper and the festive material and everything like that.
Yeah. And that's where he meets Zoe Deschanel's character too. So
Yep.
that's
Yes.
good. Oh yeah, that's a good one. And I think also his dad, played by James Caan, so one of the greatest actors, just an amazing actor. His character shows us that, depending on your timeline, it is important to take some risk to get ahead. And in the end, he eventually takes the risk he needs to get ahead in his career and get ahead financially. And so there has to be some growth and risk. And he did that by going out on his own. And then it worked out for him.
Yeah.
But don't do that without good financial advisors on your side. So.
Yeah, no doubt. He had a lot of industry experience. He went out on his own. And of course, his biggest resource, his biggest ally in the whole thing was Buddy. So nobody else had that. And he did.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. So Elf, that's one of my favorites. I love it. My favorite actor, though, in the movie, I think that did the best was Peter Dinklage, who is
He's fantastic.
Who did a great job. And he he's a little person, and Buddy thought he was an elf, and he said, "You call me elf one more time." And he goes, "Ooh, you're an angry little elf." Ooh, you're an angry little elf. And then he just comes across the table and just
Right.
destroys him. I
Yeah.
love that.
That's good. It's funny because Chris relates to that movie because he also has houses in L.A., Paris, and Vail with 70-inch flat screen TVs.
I have houses in Paris, LA, Vail, with 60-inch plasma screen TVs.
Yeah, and like every house in America now has a 60-inch plasma screen TV. So
Yeah.
that's the funny part. That's a little dated reference, but
It is dated because now they're not even plasma. They're
no,
like
it's like
LED.
that
LED.
LED.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
smart TVs.
Yep.
I
Well,
can't believe sometimes that movie is as old as it is.
I know. It seems like just yesterday. It still seems pretty fresh. I mean, compared to some of the other movies like Christmas Vacation, that's from the 80s, or Christmas Vacation, that's from the 80s. So.
Right.
And It's a Wonderful Life. When was that made? The 50s?
This is like 1947, I think.
Oh, was it the 40s?
I think it was 47.
Wow. Yeah. Yep. Well, those are some great ones. I mean, a lot of lessons. Was there anything else?
There
Was
are
another
others
one?
here. There's some maybe lesser known ones. So I think the same. So you talked about Christmas Story with, it's not all about this. The dad in the Christmas Story wins the leg lamp. He wants to put it in the window. He just tries way too hard to make sure his neighbors and everybody know it's not about validation is the lesson there, I think.
Yeah,
you're
That's
not,
true.
and they have a good backup plan for when the Bumpus dogs ruin their dinner. They go out to Chinese Christmas.
Yeah.
And may not have been what they expected, but I guarantee you, if that was a real story, that would be something that they would never forget. A Christmas they would for sure never forget.
Yes, for sure. And when the tongue gets stuck to the frozen pole, it's just you're going to shoot your eye out with that thing, the BB gun. So that is great. Well, great movies. This has been fantastic. Love talking about the holiday movies that we've all grown up with or know and love. However, financially, if you're concerned about where you're at or you don't have a written financial plan for your investments and your retirement income plan for when you do retire, or if you're in retirement, that's what you can help folks with, or tax questions. How can they get a hold of you and the staff there?
So I think we could have done at least a 1-hour show on this today. If
Oh,
we were
for
so
sure.
inclined. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many other good Christmas movies out there. Our phone number 440-886-3550. Check us out on the web, brooksidetax.com. You can always schedule a meeting there. Reference this podcast if you're not an existing client. You reference this. Your consultation will be at no cost. You can pick up a copy of one of our books on retirement planning and estate planning as well. And then our YouTube channel, Brookside Financial, loaded with shorts, and our Facebook page at Brookside Financial too.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, Tony, you did a great job talking about some fantastic movies with some fantastic messages for us all this holiday season. And that does it for today's episode of The Road to Retirement with our host, Tony Marlette Jr.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Merry Christmas.